anybody else. And so we're trying to use what is allowed by law to stop the process and do, as Chair has said, to study it and to come forward with language that we think fits within the code of regulations. Even with that, it's still some very big question marks with regards to the law, with regards to the state constitution. And you're gonna hear that when we bring it back to you and when we bring it back to your ordinance committee.
Thank you. Stan?
Yeah. Could I ask this?
You're gonna ask me if you can ask it?
No, I didn't finish the sentence. If we are putting out some regulation, which is a moratorium, could we add to the language that if there is a conflict or if there is a question about how legal or something in process is, that this is what you do, exactly what he described. This is the appeal process. And put that right into this extension. It says, if you're caught in the middle of this, this is what you do to appeal it. You go to the general manager, you can go to the board. In other words, tell somebody who's caught in the process and doesn't have an answer yet what he does about next week or tomorrow. What does he do?
Wait. He waits until next month when we get the language back and we act on it.
Yeah.
This amendment to the moratorium, is it found in the government code?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just part of the state law that allows us to take this action so we can have the time
So
to
anything
bring back
that's in
our own ordinance change.
okay, but anything in process is that
We don't put that into the,
Through the chair.
yes.
There's no need to add language about an appeal process, because that's already in your code of regulations.
Yeah.
It's already in there. So there's no need to do any of that.
okay, so if somebody does call and ask about this, we just tell them there's an appeal process, start with the general manager. That's all I'm doing is saying, let the people know that are in this process what it is that they're supposed to do if they're caught in between while this
I
is
think
going on.
that's clear in your regulations already. It's already clear in your processes that people are gonna be unnoticed, that they have administrative,
Okay.
exhaustion of administrative remedy
Okay.
rights, okay? I mean,
Stan, may I would suggest that
Yes.
these people that are querying you so incessantly, just forward them to Jeff.
Well, that's fine, but I didn't even know that there was an appeal process forwarding it to
Well, you
Jeff
approved it.
until he told it.
No, we already approved that. We worked very hard on the ordinance of second dwelling unit. We really did. Took a long time. Yes,
Can I say something?
please say something, Jack.
The biggest problem that those people are gonna have is if the legislation comes down a certain way and they didn't do it that way, they're gonna say, well, Senator District, you're the ones that are gonna have to take care of it. No, if we have the moratorium on, we told them don't do anything, we're not gonna issue anything, et cetera, et cetera. Otherwise, we're gonna be sitting here with 70, 80 people having these, coming in and complaining about this and that and the other thing.
That means 70 or 80 in self-interpretation of the law and the application by themselves.
Absent the extension of the moratorium, what we could be doing is compounding all these issues and making it so crazy for us here at staff, et cetera.
I'm thinking about the people out there, that represent us, who've been involved in it, that they have to ask questions. And what kind of an answer do they give people that call in and want to know the right process?
There's our central point of contact right there, Stan, right to your left.
Okay, so all I was saying was, it's sometimes in the issuance of orders and things, we really don't tell people what to do if things are not working the way we planned them.
Do you have some plan or idea about how we inform everyone about what we're doing, besides our website, besides the press, besides our code of
Films.
How about
the films? Yeah.
Okay, how about what we tell our own people who answer the phone?
That's a management issue there, Stan. I don't wanna micromanage, our management and what they're doing. I think they're doing a fantastic job, and I think they've got the word from you. If you do send these people over to Jeff, how they're gonna be handled.
Fine. All I was saying was,
No, I don't wanna hear it again. Come on, you've said it 5 times now.
Okay.
Give us a break,
okay,
okay?
I was just looking for an answer,
Well,
not an argument.
but we gave you the answer.
What is the answer?
Oh.
No, that's it. We're gonna move on.
Move on.
It's the pleasure of the board for item 9A,
B and C.
B and C.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Byrd,
Yes.
Mr. Curtis.
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich.
Nope.
Mr. Green,
Can you restate the motion one more time?
the motion is to adopt the ordinance that is extending the moratorium to November the 30th.
I'll vote no on it then.
Mr. Bagley,
Yes, thank you.
5 to 2. The motion passes.
Item 10, prior fiscal year budget, income and expense reconciliation, budget adjustment number 2019-13.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a
I
second.
do have a comment, and I'm surprised that you didn't spend all that, frankly.
Yeah, really, what's up with that?
I'm trying our thoughts are random.
What held you up?
He always gets a better price when it actually comes down to the purchase and
Ah.
other things. Yeah.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich,
Yes.
Mr. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Curtis.
Yes.
Mr. Byrd,
Yes.
Mr. Bagley.
Yes. Item 11, November and December board meetings, consider rescheduling. Have you all read it and know what the dates are?
So just to sort of highlight, our board meeting in November falls on the Monday after Thanksgiving. This has happened a number of times over the years. We've traditionally held that as a normal and regular meeting. But it's up to you if you want to consider moving it or rescheduling it. And then the December meeting occurs on Christmas Eve day, so we're proposing to move it to the week
Gift.
prior.
Let's put that in the stockings.
Board meeting, package in your stocking,
Right.
whatever you like. So we would move December a week earlier, and we would hold the November meeting as is, but that's up for discussion.
I'd move for approval.
That sounds reasonable. I'll second that.
Okay, that's for, the regular meeting in November stays as is, and we move the December meeting up 1 week, is that correct? All right?
To the
All those,
17th.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Item 12, general manager compensation. I put some information into your packets to give you an idea of where we are on this issue, and I'll open the discussion for the full board.
just wanna make a point, that you met in closed session, so you've completed your, I think you should put that on the record, that you've completed your performance evaluation of the general manager.
We did that
Now
last
you're
meeting,
good.
yes,
Okay.
that's complete. Now we're doing the board, the general manager compensation discussion in open session. Yep.
Thank you, Chair. You know, at the last meeting, I voiced some concern about, you know, financial carrying capacity of, how far up does this go each and every year, to what extent is the final ceiling when it comes to general manager compensation. And also, you know, I thought about, you know, such things as every time that we do have an increase, depending upon the amount of increase, it's a compounded type of increase in regards to the general manager's salary. The other thing that, you know, I personally struggle with is the fact that, you know, we do want to maintain our general manager's salary at, you know, something that keeps at least pace with the cost of living that's happening. As we well know, there have been interest rate increases in the last several months, to where now, as you notice from Department of Finance figures, it looks like there's, the index indicates that it's roughly about 4%, maybe a little bit beyond that now too, with things that have changed since that last evaluation. Keeping with the fact of, you know, being concerned about, you know, ratepayers, the salary increases can be compounded, et cetera, I appreciated the fact of what was presented in the way of contributions to a 457 plan, which I think is something that is, you know, reasonable. It's something that, you know, makes sense to, and I would have no problems with supporting the 5% increase that would be the equivalent contribution to the 457 plan on behalf of the general manager in regards to his performance, et cetera.
How does that work with 457? I believe you stated that there might be some IRS issues with that.
Yeah, I don't know the mechanics of how the board or the district makes a direct contribution to the 457 fund, because that's a pre-tax deduction from me to the plan. I'm not sure the legal mechanics of the IRS of how the board or the district would make that direct contribution.
Well, I was hoping that since this was presented here, that all was been taken care of in the way of that option.
Agencies do that
Yeah.
a lot. I mean, that's not an uncommon thing. There may be some more steps to do it. We may have to set up some kind of resolution or something, the way we have with our cafeteria fund, stating that that's what you're doing. But we'll have to find that out if that's what you decide to do. But I know there's a way to do it.
Yeah, my only advice would be to retain the services of a compensation, especially someone who's aware of public compensation. I'm sure that Lieber Cassidy has somebody on board that could easily answer this question about how to do it. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay, does anybody else have a suggestion?
We've been around long enough to know we've been through 1, 2, 3, about 4 managers. I don't think that we'll find a better manager or leader, and so I would support the compromise on the numbers that were discussed last time, and say I would support a 6% increase.
Well, we've heard 5 and now we've heard 6.
I would
See,
support
what do you make
Pete's
of
Okay,
And Pete's 5 is contributing to the 457.
Correct.
5 plus the 457?
The equivalent contribution of 5% to the 457
Shall we have a straw vote on that? Can we do that?
I would warn against straw votes, there's
Yes.
gotta be a motion
Yes.
first.
I'll make that motion then.
I will second.
We got a second. Okay.
But I did make a motion.
Yes, Pete made the motion and Jack seconded it for 5% contribution to the 457 plan.
What is the dollar amount of that?
Approximately $11,500.
Okay.
That's an alternative
Um,
motion.
How do we do this we're gonna call the roll?
Let's call a roll, and then Stan's motion would be second, if he made that. I didn't understand he was making it as a motion, but,
His was 6%.
I did, I
You
think I
didn't
did make it
Let's
as
get a
a
second.
motion.
You didn't get a second though. If this doesn't work, then we'll go back to you.
I don't think we asked for a second, we're just discussing it.
No,
Okay.
this is an actual vote.
Okay, I'll make the motion then.
Well,
We already have a
There's a
motion
already.
Okay,
and a second. So you get to
Okay.
vote on 5% contribution to the 457 plan.
Unless he wants to amend the motion,
he's not part of the motion, though.
that's true,
Yeah,
it's a totally different motion.
yes, yes.
Call the question, please.
Yeah.
so we can-
Go ahead and call the roll.
All right, Mr. Berg,
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
I'll say yes.
Mr. Bagley?
I don't even get to be a swing vote. Man, yes. Okay,
So we'll bring that back to you with whatever needs to be done to accomplish that.
thank you. The following items for our review, items 13 through 19, are information items. Any board member can pull one to discuss it if they would like.
19, I'd like to.
Okay, committee reports, go ahead, Bill.
In looking at these three different alternatives, flat rate with a slight variation for a house versus an apartment, mobile home, et cetera, and a rate based on water usage. I don't see any option that is, demonstrates the proportionality that's required by state constitution and Proposition 214. The proportionality, there's no even an option for fixture count, square footage, or anything that's a definable metric. And flat rate is not the norm for all sanitary agencies in this state. In fact, my understanding is it's very few. And notwithstanding that this method that's currently the ordinance of this district may be described with the rubric of a fair share. Lacking proportionality, lacking a metric as an option appears to me to be deficient in suitable options that would be presented to this board. So that's ideally something that would be remedied before it was actually presented, instead of it just being in the minutes of the ordinance committee. Thank you.
But the committee does not adopt anything, they only make.
Oh, I understand that. I said recommendation.
Okay, well, we'll be able to debate all of that when the language comes back.
Assuming it comes back with some other options, that's what I was pointing out.
Well, that'll have to be discussed then, not now.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Yeah, Jack.
Went to the Ventura County Special District meeting, and we went over to the Rancho, mentioned, to me, Parks and Recreation, new building, and it is really nice what they did. They sold their piece of property for a small fortune because it was a very good piece of property. And they got a new building that was already existing, and it is really nice, and it meets their needs. It's got great parking, so if you ever get a chance to go over there, you gotta go over and see it. It is really a fine building, really good. And they needed the upgrade, they really did, because now they got a place. It's over by the Brandeis Institute. It's a little bit far out, but that's kind of what they wanted, being a Parks and Recreation people. And it's really nice, it really is. Get an opportunity, drop in.
Do we have to call ahead for a tour or anything?
No, I think you can walk in the glass doors, you know, the big tall glass doors, you know. It's really nice.
Well, that sounds great.
Really smart, I mean, they bought a facility that was there already, and was perfect for them.
Well, they
Smart
lucked
people.
out. Probably have some cash in the bank too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right, for items 13 through 19, can we have a motion
It's
to
just to
receive?
receive and file.
Move to
Okay.
receive and file.
All right, we don't need one, I guess.
And I rescind the motion to receive and
Thank you.
file.
Let's not stagger things up. Item 20, director reports on meetings, seminars, or conferences attended.
That's what Jack just did.
Anybody else?
I'm just a little ahead, that's all.
Yeah, you're always ahead of the curve. That's okay. Hearing none, others, let's see, items of interest or correspondence articles of item 23, board member and general manager comments. We will begin with board member comments. Does anyone have anything they would like to talk about? Well, you can read the instructions right here. Opportunity for board members to, I'm not gonna read all that. You've either read it before or you haven't. Okay, general manager comments.
Number of items, at the personnel committee meeting on the 8th of November to finalize some questions and issues related to collateral duties. We have the ordinance committee meeting on the 30th of October, and we have the finance committee meeting on the 13th of November to do some interviews with 3 qualified financial management firms as it relates to our investment strategies. I want to talk a couple items on the information list. Item 13, the tentative NPDS discharge permit has been issued. It's in your package. It's 142 pages, I think. It's tentatively scheduled for a December 13th hearing before the regional board. It's out right now for public review. You may have seen we're required by law to issue a notice in the newspaper, so we published that, and it went out to a number of firms and agencies that want to comment on it. It's basically the same permit we have today. There's no significant changes in it as it relates to pollutant and contaminant levels. There is a change to what they call chronic toxicity. It's the method that is used to calculate whether or not the water is toxic to aquatic life. The regional board has adopted a new chronic toxicity standard for all of the public agencies that have been issued permits in the last 5 years. We're just the latest to be included in that. That chronic toxicity standard and test is under litigation by a number of agencies and a number of groups because they believe it is leading to many false positive tests. So it's something that has been included in almost every other permit in Ventura County and LA County over the past few years, and we've already been participatory in that legal challenge to the EPA's guidance on that issue.
What was the name of the bug that they used to?
Ceredaphnia dubia. It's
Yeah.
a sand flea that grows in a small beaker. We put the water in it. If the sand flea dies, then the water's bad. It's the statistical test of how many sand fleas dies as to whether or not you have a bad batch of water.
So is there some sort of group out there that they're protesting violent deaths of sand fleas?
It's
There is
quite
a
a,
sand flea organization that
it is quite a legal, it is quite a legal case, let me tell you.
Friends of the sand.
We have to have a professional person to go down and collect the sand fleas off the beach.
I think the people that grow and breed the sand fleas like the rule, because they, a lot of business.
They count them one by one too.
The other item, it'll be on your November board meeting for review and approval, is item 14. This is the draft scope of work for the TMDL compliance to study our plant and really come up with a final implementation plan. We've been working with Corolla Consultants over about a month trying to refine that scope to meet the needs of the regulations and to plan out our facility for about the next 20 to 30 years.
I got a story I have to tell you. It's actually back on item 13, the NPDES permit. I saw the notice in the newspaper, the public notice on Saturday. And I saved it and I called up Lori and I said, save the newspaper, he's got to, you know, Jeff's got to see that. That was already done. And then somehow I had to call back and talk to Brenda, and I went through the same spiel and she said, no, I put that in. I went through all of that just to get you the copy, and she's the one that put it in.
Well, you like to talk, so that's good.
It's on the 20th.
A couple other issues are out there. One, the Environmental Health Department has completed in draft their study of the impact of septic tank users in the Ventura River watershed. That is a draft report. We got to look at it about a week and a half ago and provided them back some comments on some questions and issues we had. It is definitely going to be a very controversial and problematic issue to resolve. There's about 2,800 septic tanks in the Ventura River watershed from the beach all the way up to Summit School. And so there's some significant issues on some of the clumps of septic tanks throughout the valley.
Do we need to have that peer reviewed?
We provided some very, very detailed comments. They've asked for us to keep the draft study and our comments confidential while they try and address some of them. So we'll respect that for now and see where it goes.
Okay, thanks.
There's also quite a big discussion. It's really a city issue related to closing down 2 lanes of traffic in front of the hospital and the high school. We've been involved in the discussion because it really puts some of our workers and the public at risk and in an unsafe condition when we're doing our maintenance work if they close those lanes. So we've had some conversations with the city about the configuration of their plans. That's an ongoing discussion. I have a meeting with the city next week. We're starting to have problems on some of our easements, not just a couple of significant ones that you know of. But people are trying to beautify their property, trying to plant and keep easements in a condition that's easy for us to access, as well as something that looks becoming for their property. The one that's of latest concern is right down here on Morning View, where all the cactus are planted. If you go down the highway right there at Morning View, Valley Meadow, sorry. The property owners planted some wonderful looking cactus and beautified the piece of property. It's real hard to get to the manhole when you're climbing through cactus. So it's something that we're aware of and trying to keep access to our easements clear, but allowing people to at least have the opportunity to beautify their property. That's it.
Jeff, can we step back to the previous item in regards to the modification of the roadway in front of the high school? You know, I noticed in the correspondence that it appears that there hadn't been any type of CEQA review on this. Do you know if that's been initiated at all, or?
I've been told, this is something that's been going on for about 18 months. I've been told that there are some conceptual plans that have started through some sort of design phase and some sort of environmental review phase. Our position is, you know, we're not it's city policy as to how they define and use and have their roadways function. That's really their role. And so, you know, we don't try and comment on those specifically. What we do have comments on is the configuration of those improvements and what kind of ripple effects it will have on our operations and the safety of our crews and the safety of the public while we're doing our maintenance work. While, you know, in a particular configuration of curbs or sidewalks or whatever. And so, you know, we've asked to be included in the environmental review. We've asked to be included in some alternative analysis of maybe some ways to accomplish what they want to accomplish on a policy level for the city, but also take into account the safety of the public in its present configuration. And there have been some conversations with the city, but in its present configuration, if the city closes one of the lanes in front of the high school and the hospital, when we go out to do our maintenance, because of the geometric location of our manholes, we'll end up closing the other lane. So you'll now have one lane closed by bike because of the city policy, and one lane closed because of our operations, basically closing either westbound or eastbound traffic in front of the hospital and high school. And so that's been our concern, is the safety that presents if the road is functionally closed for a period of time during our maintenance. So we're hoping to, through the CEQA process and through the design process, come up with some alternatives that allow them to accomplish their policy goals, but allow us to maintain a safe operating working area. So those are the kinds of questions, and it's, you know, obviously a very big political question.
Why couldn't they, since this is grant funded money anyway, why couldn't they just go out and buy a strip of the property that's on either side of that road, which is barren property, and put their hiking and biking trail over there out of the roadway and not create any other problems in the roadway?
Well, I think there are a number of geometric options for them
Yeah,
in terms of alternatives, and really that's all we've asked for, is to do an alternative design process that looks at other ways to accomplish the same policy goals while not creating a ripple effect or some sort of problematic, you know, final result. You know, it's kind of the do no harm kind of question. If you're going to make a change, don't make it worse in some way or another. And hopefully they'll come up with some alternatives that will allow us to operate and do our jobs, but do it in a safe way.
well, and those, and the thing was designed that way when they put the school there. Caltrans came in and widened that whole section down through there, went all the way through, because that was gonna be the school and all the businesses down there, and that's why they did it.
Well, I know there was some, you know, I'm not gonna relive the late 60s and early 70s when Caltrans did its work, but, you know, now there's some questions and some policy that the city would like to implement. Fine, those are appropriate discussions for them to have and to go through that. I just don't wanna end up with a situation where our operations then become unsafe just because of the geometric location of the